She's a novelist with many bestsellers to her name. A scriptwriter who has worked with many renowned directors. Yet her own story is even more fascinating than the ones she creates. Why do you think your works are so attractive to all these great directors?
You should ask them. I don't consider myself as a film person.
But it earns bread for you.
But writing novel is something. It's like my hobby.
Okay.
It's more like my religious life. If I don't do it, I can't find a peace of mind.
Yan Geling has lived the lives of a dancer, a war correspondent, and a wife to a diplomat. But above all, she is a storyteller. When you grew up, what did you want to be?
At the time, I really loved the dancing. Then, my father's genes kick in. I discovered that there is a writer dormanting in me, and who always wanted to talk more than dance can do.
Back to your own life. What is the life like as a writer, as successful as you are?
I love that life as a gypsy, traveling all the time, and you cannot take anything for granted. It's a wonderful life. I have nothing to complain.
We meet this fascinating woman and her fascinating stories. Yan Geling, the icon.
It was a movie hat-trick for author Yan Geling when, in 2014, Coming Home hit theaters. Based on a novel and directed by Zhang Yimou, the film broke box office records for an art house film and took Best Chinese Language Film at the Hong Kong Film Awards. This followed a collaboration with Zhang 3 years earlier on Flowers of War, also adapted from her novel set during the Nanjing Massacre. It took Best Picture at the Hua Biao Awards, the highest film honor awarded by the Chinese government. And both of these films followed a biopic about the Peking opera master Mei Lanfeng, which took Best Film at the Golden Rooster Awards in 2008. In that instance, she was the scriptwriter, teaming up with another renowned Chinese director, Chen Kaige.
Those pictures are actually some movie scenes from Coming Back, from Mei Lanfeng, from The Flowers of War. These are actually the 3 films, award-winning films, well, based on your original novels.
Actually, only 2.
Only 2, not Mei Lanfeng?
No.
Okay, but still, I mean, it's your works. Why do you think your works are so attractive to all these great directors?
You should ask them.
Tell us your impression.
Oh, well, I think I'm a basically storyteller. I don't really aspire to be some kind of esoteric writer, but I think I like to depict the long history of Chinese people and the Chinese I think the intellectual's life, and yeah.
Well, Coming Back, that movie, it's based on your novel, this one,
right?
Criminal Lu Yanshi.
Yeah.
Well, I've read this novel. Basically, director Zhang Yimou, he just chose a very small part of the whole story of this book. Do you regret he's choosing only a small part of that?
Oh, well, this is a very big novel.
It is.
That contain, I think it has 40,000 words. 40,
maybe 400,000.
400,000 Chinese characters. So it's hard for a director to put all the parts into one movie, which only lasts 100 minutes.
That's right.
And also, he was the most touched by the last part. This criminal was released and reinstated and coming home. And he was most moved by this part.
Coming Home was adapted from the last 30 pages of Yan's award-winning novel, The Criminal Lu Yanshi. It tracks the life of an ex-criminal desperate to return to his family. It's a drama of guilt, love and reconciliation set during the aftermath of the Cultural Revolution. During his long incarceration, Lu realized he was in love with his wife, but by the time of his release, she is afflicted with amnesia and she does not recognize the man for whom she has yearned. This story of personal trauma moves audiences to tears and won high acclaim at the Cannes Film Festival, where it premiered in the off-competition screening segment.
To you, in this novel, is it more of the desperation of love or more desperation of those years, the specific periods of Chinese history?
I think this novel is a saga, right? It is an epic novel, right, which we call epic. So it's a man's life, one man's life, reflecting the country's, the whole country, whole nation's fate, right?
That's right.
So I think the reason why I started to write this novel is because my grandfather, who had the similar fate or personal experience.
Also a PhD degree holder from
Yes,
America.
Yeah. But he committed suicide. He didn't survive the misfortune. So I wanted to write this to commemorate this grandfather of mine. And as I get older, I realized how much I myself can identify with this man. So I think that was a kind of a route of self-discovery.
到时候一块来啊！我那儿还有一箱尖装酒呢。
老金，人家跟你说话呢。
Both Tianyu, or the sky buff, and coming back, or criminal Lu Yanshi, both stories are set in those years. Is that the period of Chinese history special interest to you?
Yeah, you know, when Cultural Revolution started, I was 7. So, you know, that's from that age on, the children at that or youth at that time is most interested in the people's experiences, and I really saw and experienced the human nature, how they play on this stage of 10 years of chaos. So I was so impressed by so many people's different sufferings and fate, I would say, and also some people you see them as good people, and overnight they could become a traitor. They could become somebody who are suffered from these traitors. It's amazing that you can examine the human nature during the 10 years. Yeah, so I think that 10 years really gave me so many to write.
Well, this is not the first time that you worked with director Zhang Yimou, and The Flowers of War. That was an early production.
Yes.
How about that one?
that
more difficult one?
Yeah, that one I was one of the 2 screenplay writers. That one was to work with directors. It's always very difficult because you try to convince him, he tried to do the
different
otherwise.
perspectives,
Yeah. So it's in the end, the only thing I can do is to just give up what I. In the end, I know this is a director's work. So if you don't you don't write the way he wants, he will change it anyway. So.
So why it's called Zhang Yimou's film? Yeah, not your film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nanking was on fire. The last Chinese troops cleared our path back to our church.
Although Flowers of War saw some disagreements between her and the director, the film went on to win the praises of critics and audiences alike. Yan's novel of the same name is based on the true story of 13 prostitutes saving a group of girls by going to a deadly party instead of them. The incident was recorded in the diary of American missionary Minnie Vautrin, who remained in Nanjing in 1937 as Japanese soldiers brutalized the city.
Help us.
You've worked with all these renowned directors, starting in early years with An Li, with the film Xiao Yu.
Right.
And then later on with director Zhang Yimou, and then with Chen Kaige, and many more might be now queuing up to work with you in the future. So what does it feel to be able to work with all these renowned directors? I mean, how different are they?
Oh, well, well, I didn't really work with An Li. He bought your novel, then I wrote the script, and only for the first draft. And we only talked on the phone, exchanging ideas. And so later on, we met, and we talked about this project. And he said, well, you know, then at the time I got the project of
Sense and Sensibility.
Sense and Sensibility. So what do you think? What would you choose? Then he switched to be the producer instead of a director. Yeah. So.
What about the other directors like Zhang Yimou and Chen Kaige? Both are quite successful directors in China.
They are very different. Kaige is more intellectual. You know, he always asks himself and me, what do we want to say?
Message.
What message do we want to send?
He's philosophical, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's always much, he thinks more something beyond, something deeper, you know. And he always asks this question, oh, well, maybe this is about this, or about that, you know. And he doesn't really just, he's not going to be satisfied just by the, you know, with the story itself. And he always wants to go further.
The hidden message.
But Zhang Yimou also, this story is about this, and also, but he, to him, the characters and the stories and those are more important, and so he wanted to bring out a really unique, you know, the story and the characters. I think I like Coming Home pretty much. I think it's a good adaptation, you know, within this, you know,
the framework of the original novel.
Yeah.
Is now script writing taking up much of your time now? Because you initially are a writer.
Many directors and filmmakers want me to write more, but I don't think I should, because I'm basically a novelist, and I can make original novels much better, and I think I have more talent for languages than making scripts.
In other words, you have to make compromises as a script writer. Well, as a novelist, you're on your own.
Right, yeah. So I like to have this freedom, infinite freedom, to create my own world.
That's just side job.
Right. No, you know what? I think because of writing scripts and all these people really, all these works really gave me great income, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I consider that as my day job. You know, sometimes you don't have to love your day job, but you have to do it. But writing novel is something, is like my hobby or something. I do it for my well-being, my mental well-being.
Okay.
It's more like my religious life.
Something you enjoy doing.
Yes, yes. And if I don't do it, I can't find a peace of mind.
Well, with the script writing, you probably don't enjoy that much doing it because you have to make compromises.
Yes.
But it earns bread for you.
Right.
Do we have to put it in such a straight way and a frank way? We don't know. But the thing is, all the script writing, all these movies and the experience of working with all these big directors in China makes you more famous. It brings fame to you. In turn, it attracts more readers actually to buy more of your books. How do you see this cycle?
Well, as a person, I really feel clumsy of doing PR work for myself. Okay, to do the publicities and so nowadays it's not you can't avoid it. So you have to do it. But movies are good publicity.
Good PR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saves your time.
Yeah, either it does well or doesn't. It always brings good publicity for my novels. And I want to convert some of the audience in the movie theater who watch the movies based on my novels to my readership. This is what I really want to do. But I never do anything
on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. It's just
natural happening.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah,
natural development.
Yes.
Your father was also a writer himself.
Right. Yeah.
So he taught you how to write.
Oh no. I was a dancer.
You were a dancer, military dancer,
right.
Actually.
Yeah, military. Those years, military recruit the
most troops.
Yeah. The most talented children. So they trained them. So they trained me to be a dancer, but I wasn't good one.
How old were you at the time?
11 or 12.
11, 12.
Yes.
And then you were recruited by the military to be a military dancer.
Right. But back then we had 红色娘子军, red.
Red detachment of women.
You're right. Yeah.
It's now a ballet show. It's a great show now.
Right. And also white-haired girl, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So those are the major two ballets, dramas we danced.
Did you play any main characters at the time?
No.
One of the troops.
Right. Yeah.
Somehow it helped you get away from all these turmoils outside in the society, right?
Right.
It was a protection.
Right. And because I think, compared with Red Guards who are not army, but they always raise some kind of violence and chaos, right? And the army is the force that brings order.
That's the backbone of the society at the time.
Right. And so I admire them. I really want to become one of them. So I tried my best to get into the army.
So that was your own choice?
Right, yeah. I was very, very admired by other children. When I walked down the street in uniform with insignias and all the children, are you real? Are you real or not? Like a soldier, a doll soldier. So I really enjoyed my
military years. Yes. What did you want to be at the time? Did you think of that? When you grew up, what did you want to be?
At the time, I really loved the dancing, but my idea was I wanted to dance solo.
White-haired girl.
Solo.
One day you were going to play that role, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was a very single-track-minded person. Then my father's genes kick in.
In 1979, when war broke out between China and Vietnam, Yan heard there was a shortage of journalists on the front line, and she volunteered to be a war correspondent. Her main job was to interview wounded soldiers. Here, real-life dramas of heroism, suffering and death were daily laid out before her. Yan wrote a lot of poems and reportage, and from then on took to the pen rather than her point shoes. For a woman who spent so many happy childhood hours in her father's library, this turn of events was perhaps inevitable.
What did that experience leave you now in your life?
You know, abruptly, I changed my profession. I abandoned the dancing career just like that.
No more white hair girl.
Yeah. Then I discovered there is a writer dormanting in me, and who always wanted to talk more than dance can do.
Yan rose to fame for writing the screenplay Heartstring, which was later made into a film. She then wrote some award-winning novels. In 1988, Yan was one of just a few artists invited by the US Embassy to visit as part of an exchange program. She seized the opportunity and embarked on a course of further education in the US. In a little over a year and a half, she went from barely knowing her ABCs to attaining a TOEFL score sufficient to get into graduate school. She enrolled at the Columbia College of Art in 1989 and got systematic training as a writer, requiring her to read long lists of novels and write hundreds of pages of papers. But it was all worth it.
You got your fame actually as a professional writer, novelist, fairly young. By the age of 30, you've already finished like 11, 12 novels, 3 and 4 lengths, and winning all these national prizes. How did you feel at the time to be so young yet to be so successful?
Oh well, I think then going to the U.S. to get education, further education was.
When was that?
In 1989.
89.
Yes, I went to the U.S. to get my graduate degree. So I think that really was my. I think I need further education. I need a new materials for my writing. So then from that time, I started to write Chinese immigrants' life, like Fu Sang and a bunch of novels and stories.
So at the time, you were very successful already, but at the same time, you felt you were struggling a little bit with where to go next after all the successes previously.
Yeah, because I think to be chosen to be a professional writer in that early age isn't good for me, because I stopped living as a normal person.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do everybody, it's like when I went to US, for example, I went to the restaurant to work as waitress. I went to a rich people's house to be a nanny, right? So all these people, I really didn't think I was collecting materials for my future writings. I was earning bread. I was earning a living. So that was a real life. So that made me understand the new immigrants, how they feel, about the alienation, displacement, all these, right? So all the later, the stories like Xiao Yu was about this kind of experience I had.
Well, to be able to communicate in English is one thing, and you did it well. But to be able to write in English is totally another thing.
Right.
You also did it.
Yes.
You wrote it, the
Novel.
banquet, a novel,
Yes.
The Banquet Bug,
Yes.
totally in English. How did you manage to do that? I mean, starting from someone who's basically English illiterate, and then after a few years of training, you started to write in English, and it won you an award at the time in America. How did you manage to do that?
Well, I think in school, our writing training, our writing all done in English, so you cannot do Chinese. I was the only foreign student in that department for 100-some years, right? So I had to write in English. Although the writing was terrible in the beginning, right? And further in the last 2 years, maybe I did better. But it was my reading was English, and I tried very hard to get the feel of English writing. Because my English at the time I wrote the novel, The Banquet Book, was only 18 years old. So I was an 18 years old English writer. So I told myself, so if I couldn't make it published, fine. I tried, right? It's fun always to try, you know. So, but the publisher really loved it. And my editor in Hyperion, the publishing house, which is attached to Disney, and said, you know, we found another Joseph Conrad. You know, right? Joseph Conrad didn't write English until didn't learn English until he was 27. So I was very, very happy with myself. And after that, I said, okay, so I proved that I could write in English. That's it. I come back to writing Chinese.
Over the years, Yan has published dozens of full-length or short novels, many of which have won major awards on the mainland or in Taiwan. Along with the criminal Lu Yanshi, Little Aunt Crane is among her most famous. Both have won the Chinese Association for Fiction's top prizes for a full-length novel.
Now, back to your own life. What is the life like as a writer, as successful as you are?
Well, my life is very simple and boring. Yes, every day I just started the same way. Have 2 cups of coffee and go back to my writing. And every day I work a little bit, like 3 or 4 hours on my novels, and then I read and watch movies and exercise.
You didn't mention your husband, you didn't mention your daughter, right? I'm sure they play a huge part in your life.
She also found her love in the States, a US diplomat named Lawrence A. Walker, who, barred from dating someone from a communist country, gave up his job to be with her. They married in 1992, after which he returned to the diplomatic corps. Since then, her travels around the world as a diplomat's wife have given her access to even more stories. Meanwhile, with his good command of Chinese, Walker has translated some of Yan's works into English, including The Landlady and White Snake. He is now working on The Criminal Lu Yanshi.
And now you with that job, with your husband as a professional diplomat, you get to travel around the world. That in turn is also helping you as a writer.
Yeah,
right?
I love that life as a gypsy, traveling all the time, and you cannot take anything for granted. So, but then you are like a child, you know, keep your curiosity going all the time. You know, it's a wonderful life. Yeah, I have nothing to complain.
Absolutely. But can you at least tell us what exactly is the next project you're now working on? I'm working on a story about gymnastics. This time gymnastics? Where did you get that inspiration? I read stories. All right. And that's the only clue you could give us now? Yes. All right, look forward to reading that new novel. And thank you once again for coming to the Icon. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you. You think Chinese literature or Chinese writers are now attracting more attention? Of course. Much more attention than 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Can writers be trained? First, you have to be a writer. Well, first you have to have the writer's material, right? Genius. Right. You have to have the talent. If you are just, you don't like writing, or you don't have the sense of what to write and to, you're not sensitive to the language, then you cannot be trained.